Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. This is a quick sound test, mic test, all the tests. Um, yeah, before we kick off, what promises to be one of the best sessions for this, well, promises to be one of the best conferences, virtual conferences, at least for the time being, of this year. So we've got a packed schedule. We've got a whole lot of speakers coming in, a whole lot of sessions, and a lot of hopefully fun conversations to be had throughout the day today. We're going to be kicking off in a couple of minutes' time. I'm just letting everybody to join in, see me wamp a little bit, or maybe just getting things started. Hello, everyone in the chat. Hello, everyone in attendance. Feel free to say hi to whoever is in here. Maybe even let us know where you're joining us from. That's also pretty cool. I'm joining you, everyone, here from Durham, North Carolina. I don't know if there are any Carolinians here, so that'll be pretty good to know. I've always been surprised lately at conferences where people have just been from where I am, which, it's pretty cool. Durham, Raleigh, Cary, all the likes, right? The triangle area. Um, and now, lovely to have everybody here. We need to stick to time, so I'm gonna kick things off maybe in just about a minute's time because we do have a very packed schedule. We want to keep to time for the sake of everybody's sanity because we'll be changing rooms a couple of times. There are a lot of really action-packed sessions coming up for you. So really happy that you could join us this morning. I have already put in my silent and very vocal prayers to the internet gods so that there are no disruptions, vocal prayers to the microphone gods so that there are no disruptions, as well as the camera gods. So hopefully it's the same case for you guys. I want to make sure that you have the best possible experience going into Leap 2.0, the API Governance Conference. Um, it's Feb 27th. 9 a.m. my time, 1 minute past. So I'm going to kick things off really quickly. So hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, afternoon, evening, depending on where you're joining us from. This is Leap 2.0, the API Governance Conference. As we usually do, I'm going to start by sharing my screen. And I can already see there is a bit of engagement going on, introductions going on in the chat, which is fantastic. Keep that going. Let us know where you're from. I set up my slides, which you should be able to see now. So I said, welcome to Leap 2.0. This is the second year of us doing this. So I'm doubly excited. It was a blast hosting everyone who was present for our first edition back in 2024. That was all about API observability. Today, we are tackling yet another equally, if not even more important conference topic or a topic around the API world altogether, which is API governance. A little bit about myself. I am Budha. Well, Buddhaditya Bhattacharya, but I'm going to do you the kindness. You can call me Budha. That's perfectly fine. I'm the developer advocate here at Tyke and your humble host for the entirety of the conference today. What else? Some of you might actually know me. I've had the pleasure of meeting some of you folks before, some of the speakers before as well, but I'm doubly excited to meet everybody who was in attendance today, as well as speaking and moderating sessions. So it's going to be an action-packed, absolutely jam-packed conference for the next, well, 6 hours. So buckle up and here we go. Welcome to Leap once again. So the idea behind Leap, I told you this is the second year of us doing this, but the idea behind Leap was very simple. When we first started back in 2024, we wanted to help people take a leap forward in their API journey. There was so much going on in the world of API journey. There is learnings to be had. There was a lot of material from starting point all the way to maturing into something that is you're essentially creating systems that impact the rest of the world. So we wanted to make sure that the right conversations were all brought in a way that help people move forward. And that meant it's not just for individuals or organizations, actually organizations and individuals together to make that leap forward, to come together for learning opportunities, for better decision making, as well as succeeding as a group. That was the whole point of Leap when we first started. That has not changed. It is still our priority to make sure that you leap forward in your API journey. It's only the topic that has changed. It's evolved from an API observability focused conference last year to what I still believe is one of the most important conversations to be had around API governance. Now, API governance as a topic tends to be a little bit on the drier side. It's not something that usually elicits a lot of excitement. It can actually elicit a little bit of fear, maybe a risk aversion to a point, because a lot of times when you look at the explanation of API governance, you usually come across words like security and compliance and standardization. And these aren't really things that elicit a sense of joy in most people or excitement, but they are very, very valuable. They're extremely important for you to understand, to get right, and to get started as early, as quickly as possible, because these are the foundations upon which you build your API empire. So without strong foundations, that's never going to happen. However, if you were to just shift that narrative a little bit away from, say, security compliance standardization to, say, your golden path to innovation, then suddenly people start paying attention. And this is not overselling it in any way, because ultimately, when you think about innovation, there are guardrails that are necessary to make sure that that innovation doesn't go out of control. Funnily enough, when I was actually researching my some of the images, possible images of what leaping could look like, there was a lot of times where I came across images of people jumping over cliffs. Um, and while that might feel exciting at times, it's equally a bit of a challenge because it elicited a bit of anxiety in me when I looked at it. So having the right guardrails, very, very important. That's what I would want API governance to help me with if I am taking that leap of faith, if I am jumping towards that direction of innovation, then I want to make sure that I have the right guardrails in place. I have that golden path available to me so that I'm making the right decision. I'm doing the things that are in the best interest of the organization, of me as an individual, at the same time exploring something that is exciting. So that to me is what API governance is all about. You will hear a lot of different nuances, of different conversations that will happen throughout the rest of this conference. So obviously stay tuned. There's a lot more to come in the world of API governance as we go along. So a little bit more about what to expect today. There are going to be sessions, polls, and well, there's a huge amount of networking opportunity. There's a lot of you right now that I can see in the lobby chat that have already started interacting and having conversations. You can even do that on a one-on-one basis, which is amazing. Just looking at some of the sessions, we do have a great mixture of presentations, panel discussions, and lightning talks. They are going to be segmented in most cases into two tracks, implementers and decision makers. If you see this lighter, stretched out version of the agenda, that usually means that it's just a single session happening. If you've got two in parallel, that's when you would see they are split into either implementers and decision makers tracks. There's also lightning talks. We're going to be having two batches of them later on after lunch, where you have three lightning talks back to back, followed by another three back to back. These are going to be adding another layer to the conversation around API governance. So hopefully all of that helps you leap forward in your API governance journey. There's also a notion of a little bit of switching rooms as well. If you see things are in separate sessions or separate segments or listed separately, that usually means there is a specific room that's allocated for that discussion, for that presentation. So, and the links will be available in the lobby, in the agenda, if you are already here. So hopefully that makes sense. I would invite you to use the lobby chat to interact with each other, to network with each other. Use the session chats if you want to interact with the people here in the room. Interact, ask questions at any point if you would like. Okay, hopefully everybody is fine. All right. Cool. Apart from that, I would say participate. It's quite easy in a virtual conference like this to just sit back and just listen in, or maybe listen passively. I would invite you to actively participate in conversations today, ideally either through chat or through Q&As. It's a great opportunity for you to learn. It's a great opportunity for us to get to know you better as well, because two-way learning is the best form of learning, in my opinion. So as much as we possibly could facilitate that, we would want to help you in that journey too. So don't sit back, participate. And with that, this is your first opportunity to do so. So I'm going to do a really quick energy check. And it's anyone's guess which spectrum I might fall into at this stage. But perhaps this is early morning for you. Perhaps you're just about getting started with your day, or maybe in the middle of your day. So I'm going to launch a really quick poll to just do a bit of an energy check so that we can get a little bit warmed up towards what polling looks like for the rest of the day. So hopefully we'll be pretty close to that 4 and 5 mark, perhaps. Hopefully you're just as excited as I am to bring you Leap. We've been working on this for a little while, although it just feels like yesterday that we concluded our first edition of Leap. Here we are doing it once again with an even larger crowd and a larger, bigger, insightful lineup and speaker panel. So I'm super excited. I'm definitely at that 5 level. Hopefully that stays as the day progresses. But yeah, really appreciate you filling up this poll. There is one other poll that I'm going to be starting off. Perhaps we do that simultaneously to save us a little bit of time. I'm going to end the poll in about 30 seconds. All right, about 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5. 3, 4, 5, mostly 4 and 5. So which is good, which is great. It's a great starting point for us. So I'm going to end the poll for now, and that's not too bad, right? That's not too bad. On to the last one. So this is something that we want to do for the opening session, but equally want to do that for the final session. This is a bit of a knowledge check on where you stand right now in your understanding of API governance. And as I said, it's a very nuanced topic. It's something that has a lot of layers today. Again, there's added additions to those conversations almost on an ongoing basis. You'll hear things around AI and AI governance. That is something that a lot of people care about. There is federated API management and API governance associated with it, and you hear a lot about that. There is automation, there is your usual security, you've got open standards discussion. There's a whole range, whole host of conversations that make up this API governance space. So we want to know a little bit about where you believe you stand right now. And what we would do is at the end of the day, once you have gone through a lot of these sessions, hopefully most of these sessions, we want to do another check to see if that learning meter has improved in any way, shape, or form. So hopefully you're perhaps from what I'm seeing right now, you're roughly at that middle stage where you've got a bit of an understanding of API governance, perhaps looking to learn a little bit more about specific topics as you've told us before, and hopefully we'll help you in that journey. So in the interest of time, we have about 100 plus responses already. So I'm going to just stop things now, share the results. So looks like roughly a bit of a spectrum there, but most of us seem to be at that level 3, 2, 3, 4 level, which is fine. It's a sort of an average level of understanding with a little bit of specialization, hopefully coming today. So what else? Join us on social. Post about Leap. If you're doing so, use the hashtag Leap2025. Tag us on social. These are all of our different handles. Tag me in your post if you want. I am Budha. As you know, that's my LinkedIn profile. Apart from that, there's also going to be a certification later on today. We'll be opening this up at I think that during the closing ceremony. So you'll have the link. You'll be able to participate. There are 30 questions. Once you pass it, you'll get a certification, and feel free to follow these steps to be able to add them to your LinkedIn profile. So with that, I think that concludes my, hopefully, an exciting beginning to what promises to be an even more interesting day. Welcome to Leap. Let's go. With that, I'm going to invite my colleague, friend, Sophie, head of product here at Type, to kick us off into the world, into the journey of API governance and what that all looks like, and set the scene for what is to come later on today. So over to you, Sophie. I'm going to stop sharing.
Thanks, Budha. Great intro. I'm glad to see everyone is energized, or 4 and 5 energized, raring to go. Let me get my screen share going.
Go ahead. I see I have a few people raising their hands. I don't know if it's by accident or you meant to do that. If you have a question, just feel free to just put that in the chat perhaps, or if you've got a question, put that in the Q&A section below. That's the best way to get us going. And I'll pick up those questions at the end of Sophie's session as well. So really appreciate all the participation. Really appreciate you participating in the poll. over to you, Sophie. I'm going to be heading backstage.
Thanks, Budha. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Great to see so many of you here. Really excited about the rest of the day. I am going to kick off today by exploring how putting people at the center of governance, so the developers, the platform leaders, executives, can transform API chaos into seamless collaboration. So just before we get going, a quick intro to me. I'm Sophie. I'm the head of product at Tyke. I've been at Tyke coming up to 6 years now. My background is in product, but also user experience. So my product drive has always been centered in understanding people and ensuring that users get both value and a positive experience when using our products. So this is why, part of the reason why people are the focus of my small talk today. As I was researching for this talk, I decided to look at API governance definitions from around the time I started at Tyke to now. And what was really interesting to see is a clear shift from general control and standardization of APIs, so more kind of security focused around compliance, to now we're seeing more of an innovation and strategic enablement angle focused on the impact of the wider organization. So let's talk about why we think that is. I'm going to talk a bit about the challenge of API governance now, but before we get going, I'd like to do a poll to see where you guys see your governance maturity right now within your organizations. So I'm hoping, yeah, here we go. Hopefully you can all see that. So yeah, we're going from kind of no formal API governance in place all the way down to governance processes being fully automated and business aligned. A lot of answers coming in here. Looks like the majority of you are kind of hovering around the middle there. So basic API guidelines exist, but enforcement is minimal. Quite a few of you around API governance policies are established and enforced, which is good. Really small number of you feel like you've got a governance fully nailed. So I guess that's why you're all here today, which is great news. Okay, really interesting to see that. Quite a fair few of you with no formal governance in place at all. So yeah, again, I'm hoping that today you'll learn a lot of really great stuff from the amazing speakers that we've got lined up. So now that we know kind of where you guys are and you've had a little think about where you guys fit, let's talk about governance, why governance is becoming such a critical issue, especially as APIs scale exponentially in the market at the moment. So data shows that there are around 200 million active APIs right now, and that we are on the path to be approaching 1.7 billion active APIs by 2030. I don't know about you, but I can't really get my head around the numbers that are that big. But we all know APIs are the backbone of modern enterprises. I'm sure that is a phrase that you'll probably hear multiple times today. But without governance, these APIs become a liability, and APIs at this scale are becoming problematic and will continue to do so. So some of the problems that we see in the market today, it's mainly around API sprawl of these huge numbers of APIs that are being created across these organizations. So we've got shadow APIs causing rogue APIs to bypass governance completely, introduce security vulnerabilities and compliance risks. There are discoverability issues, so developers wasting time searching for APIs, leading to duplication and inconsistent user experiences. We've got security risks, so APIs are prime targets for attacks, exposing sensitive data. We've got cost overruns with unmonitored API usage, and especially these high-cost AI endpoints these days, leading to inefficiencies and budget complete blowouts. Scalability headaches around managing APIs across multiple teams, multiple regions. It becomes so much harder when there isn't a unified governance framework. And these challenges, we don't see them as just technical challenges. Most of them are actually organizational challenges coming from siloed teams, fragmented tools, and a lack of cohesive processes being the root cause. So it's why API governance needs to focus on aligning the people and the processes to create these scalable and sustainable solutions. So how can we solve these challenges? Typically, when we think of API governance, we often picture dashboards, rules engines, compliance tools. But the point I want to get across today is that it isn't just about the technology, it's about the people. So the developers, the platform leaders, the executives, and the processes that bring these people together. So I want you to think of governance a bit like city planning. So you can put all the technology you need in place, the roads, the traffic lights, the zoning laws, but it only actually works in practice if people follow the rules and processes that are put in place to enforce them. API governance is no different. It's about creating systems that empower people to collaborate, innovate, and stay aligned. If city planning isn't your thing, you can think of governance a bit like a fitness trainer. So you can have all the tools, so the gym equipment, the apps, the wearables, and they only get you so far. You will often need a trainer or someone who can create the plan, track your progress, ensure you can stay on track to meet your goals, someone who's looking at the bigger holistic picture. So here's a very simplified look at a typical hierarchical API structure within a business. You've got a number of APIs distributed throughout products and teams. You've got platforms that are responsible for those APIs or a subset of them. We know that best practice would be to have one platform, but in reality, we see that there are very large enterprises that typically have multiple. And then you've got the overall business unit who's driving the overall business direction. And with each of these layers, you get different stakeholders, and these stakeholders care about very different things. But governance is still the end goal when it comes to APIs. And it's important to remember that not everyone necessarily cares about governance directly. Effective governance starts with an understanding of who cares about what. So we've got the builders. So these are the developers we saw at that kind of bottom level of the APIs themselves. Developers don't necessarily care about governance as a concept. They care that their APIs comply with rules so that they can ship faster. For developers and the builders here, governance should feel invisible. They want tools that integrate seamlessly into their workflows, automate the compliance checks, and reduce manual effort. We've got enforcers, the platform leaders. They prioritize the oversight, the compliance, and the risk reduction. For them, priority is visibility, knowing which APIs are compliant, which ones aren't, what needs to be fixed, enforcing the rules. They need tools that provide the real-time insights and actionable data. And then we've got the non-technical leadership, so the strategists here, who are driving governance demand. They're focused on risk reduction, operational efficiency. And for them, governance is about protecting the business, reducing the risk, ensuring compliance, and enabling teams to move faster. They need to see the ROI of governance in clear, measurable terms. So with these, it would be interesting to see from the audience we've got here now, where would you put yourself in these three categories? So I think we're going to put up another poll now. Here you go. So are you a builder, an enforcer, or a strategist? Or other? Do you not fit into any of these categories? Lots and lots of builders here. And then about an equal mix of enforcers and strategists. It's really interesting. As we move through, you'll see that it's actually interesting that there are kind of an equal number of enforcers and strategists. I think there's a fair bit of crossover between the two groups. Okay. Yeah, great. So a lot of builders here, enforcers and strategists as well. So thank you for that. Okay, and then, so we've spoken about people, and now we've got processes that have to align to those people. So these processes align the people and enable the technology to work effectively. So governance needs to be embedded throughout the API lifecycle. Effective governance is not a one-time task. It's a continuous process that starts at design and extends all the way through to deployment and monitoring. And it's the builders that really care about having that API lifecycle integration. Then you've got the federated governance aspect, and that's about creating processes that allow teams to work independently while staying aligned to the overall goals. So it's the balance between autonomy and oversight and enforcing rules that go down to the different teams. Automation around compliance workflows, streamlining processes around access control, audit logging, automation, ensuring that the compliance requirements are consistently met, but without impacting those that are building. And it's going back to the fact that the builders and the engineers kind of want the invisibility aspect to governance. And then you've got the compliance and governance reporting. So having visibility is key, and it gives you instant insight to risk exposure, API performance, and regulatory alignment. So now we're coming into tooling. I said it's all around people and processes, but tooling, you still need the tooling to underpin all of that. So specifically at Tyke, here are some of the tools we've got for the engineers, for those builders. So the builders are focused on creating APIs quickly and efficiently while adhering to governance rules without friction. So the tooling here, we're really aiming for it to be embedded into their workflows to make compliance invisible and seamless. Now, Tyke and other API platforms have multiple tools for these people, and we are continuing to enhance our capabilities in this area. You can think about things like API templates, so reusable templates that enforce best practices for API designs. You've got partials and overlays as well, so making sure that there are parts of the API design that you can enforce. Then enforceable middleware, so middleware that automatically applies policies around authentication, rate limiting, data validation at runtime. Linting tools to catch design issues early in the development process. Integrated testing tools to validate APIs against governance rules before deployment. And then developer portals or centralized portals with clear documentation, sandbox environments, and easy access to approved APIs. And I'm really excited to announce that we've got a new governance product coming out, specifically targeting the enforcers and the strategists. So here's a sneak peek at some of the things we've got coming into this product. So a governance dashboard, it gives centralized visibility to provide real-time insights into API governance, compliance, violations, and risks. It enables organizations to monitor governance adoption, identify risks early on, and drive compliance improvements across the API landscape. There are intuitive visualizations, automated alerts, and teams can proactively address security gaps, operational inefficiencies, and policy deviations, ensuring API quality and reliability. There's benefits here for the governance leads, the API developers, and the platform engineers. Then we've got an API repository, which is a centralized catalog for discovering, organizing, and managing APIs across the enterprise. It provides a single source of truth for API documentation, API ownership, and lifecycle tracking. So by improving visibility and accessibility, this repository will reduce redundancy, enhance API discoverability, and streamline collaboration across the teams. It integrates with multiple API platforms to automate API discovery and maintain a structured inventory, ensuring teams can easily find, reuse, and manage APIs based on their business needs. And then we also have here a centralized governance rule management capability. So defining, managing, and applying governance rules across different API in your ecosystem. You don't have to set up rules on separate platforms. It comes with recommended rules around security and compliance and operational best practices. And by automating rule enforcement and providing real-time compliance monitoring, the engine will help teams maintain high-quality API while minimizing governance overhead. So that's some of the new capability we have. We would love to show you more about that. We've actually got a webinar next month purely around this topic. So we'd love to have you join that. But we'll be able to give you more information on that. But yeah, we're really excited about this. So what I want to leave you with is what we want to think of governance as the future. So what if governance wasn't a burden in your organization? What if it was your secret weapon? A way for you to disrupt your market and even disrupt your own business? It's a system that aligns teams, reduces risk, and accelerates innovation. That's the future that we are building. And it starts with putting people and processes at the heart of governance. So Thank you. I will leave you on that. I really hope you enjoy hearing from all the amazing speakers we've got lined up today. I certainly am. I'd love to hear any of your questions if you've got any, but if not, have an amazing day.
All right. Well, I am back. Thank you so much, Sophie. That sets us up very, very nicely for everything that is coming up. There are a couple of questions in the chat. They were not pertaining specifically to the session, but yes, slides will be available. Yes, recordings will be available. And yes, we're going to be covering AI governance fairly extensively, actually. We've got 3 sessions around it. There's also conversations around federated API management and governance. There's conversation on automation, on open standards. So there's a whole list of questions and a whole list of topics we'll be covering. So really, really glad and excited for you to experience that. Now, in the interest of time, if anyone has any final questions, feel free to ask them. Otherwise, what we'll do is we'll head over to the next room. We have our second keynote speaker, Kin Lane, who's going to be jumping on and starting us off into a journey of 25 years of HTTP and API governance. So we'll look into that. Thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure hosting you, and hopefully you're going to be enjoying the rest of the conference. Thank you for engaging with us. Hopefully you keep your energy up. Thank you so much, Sophie. On to the next session in the next room. See you there.
Thanks, everyone.